Symmetrical bases have been the meta for many years in Rust. The obvious strength of such bases is that they have no weak points. There is no direction where the raid can come from and expose a weakness in the base and make it easy to raid. But are they ideal? In my opinion, no, and you shouldn't always use this design because it's also not the most economical one. The symmetrical base design concept will be perfect if you couldn't anticipate where the raid is going to come from and every direction has an equal chance of the raid coming from. But that's not the case in Rust. For example, a lot of bases are being built by the water. There are a few benefits of building a base by the water: access to water, being able to travel by a boat or a rip. But I think one of the bigger advantages of building a base by the water is that by the water there's a lot of flat area, which is not the case in many areas into the land on the map. So, for example, it will be very hard to build a base on top of such a steep hill. But here in this flatter area near the water, it's quite easy to get up a bigger base without having difficulties of placing foundations, walls, and external walls. Okay, so you found a quite flat piece to build your base on. You started building it, and you can anticipate where the raid is gonna come from, right? Because, well, it's not very likely that it's gonna come from the water. Moving from the water is hard and you're very slow, you make noise. The same goes from this direction. Moving through the river is very difficult. This extra slowdown is painful, and for a raider you're vulnerable. Also, you below the level of the base, so this means should you be fighting, should the defender be online or go online, you're gonna be having a hard time fighting. But I think the most important thing is that in the current meta, or the meta for many years, the most likely way to raid bases, except the smallest one, is to rocket raid. Because of the splash damage, it's just very effective to raid. But with the rockets, we'll see. I'm aiming for this spot here, and now let's see where the rocket is gonna hit. It hit on the base of the external wall while I was aiming here. You know, it's gonna be very hard from a low ground to aim the rocket, so it's gonna directly hit the second level or even the first level. The first level is probably gonna be impossible. So you would have to build a really high raid base to be actually able to shoot inside the compound or to rocket in on the second or first level. And you probably have first to destroy the external walls. So that same situation goes from here. Here you're gonna be just very below the level of the base. So with high probability, you can expect the raiders to start raiding from here. If they build a base with a few layers of walls, let's say two layers of walls like this. Okay, and then they're gonna be able to stand on this section. Now you can see way better into the compound. You can almost rocket in on the first level, but you can easily hit the second level from the opposite direction across the river. You could only see the third floor, and rocket in here. Well, you have to make some correction on the flight. See, you can even hit the first level. So knowing that the direction is gonna come from the high ground, what can you do actually to prepare for it? How can you make use of this information, this high probability? Well, you could think that maybe all I need to do is just to place another layer of honeycomb from this direction, right? So you will try even with square foundation or with triangle foundation to put a honeycomb in. But the problem with that is that this will be probably also visible from the outside, that you have a honeycomb, and the raiders might fly with a minicopter around, look at the base and see that there is an extra honeycomb in here, or they might just ladder in, look above the base to see what's inside, and they're gonna see this this honeycomb, extra honeycomb, and they're gonna decide to come from a different direction. So putting a visible honeycomb for the raiders, an extra honeycomb just in one direction of your base, is not the greatest idea. But what can you do actually to prepare from a raid from this direction without giving it away to the raiders that you know or you assume that they're gonna come from this direction? Well, the first thing you should do is to upgrade the walls and foundation and roofs to the higher tier from the direction you expect the raid to come from. While you might be able to upgrade all the walls at the same time, one floor at the same time, the most likely situation will be that you upgrade one or two walls, then you're gonna farm a little bit, upgrade another one, then you're gonna log off, and next day you're gonna upgrade the rest of the walls on one floor. So if you're expecting the direction of the raid coming from here and you wanna upgrade the core, you're gonna start with this situation with this wall, then you're gonna go this wall and that wall, and in the end you're gonna upgrade the walls on the other side where they're least likely to be attacked from. Second thing you can do is to distribute your loot accordingly. This is, for example, a solo design by Gamelight for a solo base with 3 bunkers. So you build your bunker here, you build your bunker here, and you will build your bunker here for extra loot bunkers. Now, you shouldn't put really your best loot in this bunker if you accept the raiders to be rocketing in from this direction. Put your better loot in the bunkers that the direction of the raid is gonna be the least likely. Even inside the base, you should think about putting your better loot on this side rather than on the side of the raid direction. Third thing you can do is to upgrade the building blocks to the higher tier, but in a way that it's not visible from the outside. You probably won't be able to upgrade all the building blocks of the second level to armored, but you can do that just for a few building blocks. For example, you could take this building block, upgrade it to armored, take this one, take this one, and take this one, and now it's visible from the outside, so it's not good. But once you're finished the base and this situation isn't gonna be visible, right? So you're just gonna place the roofs here, and it's not gonna be visible. And once you place the roofs on the other side, it will look the same way from this direction as it looks from this direction. It's not, you cannot spot the difference that behind this stone wall roof there is an armored wall, and behind this stone roof there is just a sheet metal door. And the same goes for this situation. Once you close here the honeycomb to sheet metal and you finish off the roof, you won't be able to see that there is an armored wall. See, now I closed off the bunker and there is no way of telling, or not really, I don't think there is any way of telling that behind this wall there is an armored honeycomb and from the other side it's not. So only if you open the bunker you can see that there is an armored wall and not in any other way. Additionally, if you start placing turrets around your base, it will highly increase the chance that raiders who start a raid from one direction, they won't change the direction of where they're gonna rocket into the core, because, well, once they get in, they're probably gonna destroy these two turrets and this one, but then they start seeing that there are additional turrets and just destroying them to be able to, for example, to rocket in here or be able to rocket in here with other turrets probably placed behind there. It's gonna take them way longer, probably require them to have additional incendiary rockets or high velocity rockets to destroy the turrets or just to bleed them out. It will take time, and one of the most important things in raiding is to make the raids as quickly as possible, because the defenders can always log on, there will be counter raids, so having to destroy the least amount of turrets, which takes time and costs, will be very helpful for the raiders. Right now, one thing that might give away the raiders that this is not the best direction to raid is that you really have no entrance here. Yes, the entrance might be through the bunker, but you also have back here a door that gives you access to the base, that you can access the roof, jump down, or whatever you have in such a base. But I like to deceive the enemy, make him really think that this is the direction. So I use this deception in many of my solo builds, and deception is, I think, a big and underused concept in Rust base building that I probably make a separate video about. But what I like to do is to place a fake entrance here. Now, you have an entrance from the outside. It looks like there is an entrance to the base just from the direction you want your enemies to raid you. And actually, once they destroy this door, they still have an extra door to destroy it if they decide to door raid you. And behind that, it's an armored wall and some drop boxes. The drop boxes and the locker are placed here. Of course, you could actually just stop here with two sheet metal doors, but why I place this is because I will use this entrance actually, and the raiders or your neighbors or somebody just walking past your base will probably see you that you're actually going into the base through these doors, and this will make it more likely for them that this is a real door to the core of the base. But you will only use it to drop off stuff, to swap your gear, and additionally, you can always try to use it in a raid. You can also place a bag in here and try to use it, for example, in base defense. If you wanna spawn in here, take your gear, and just try to surprise your enemies from a direction they might not expect. But most of the cases, the biggest point of this is that it makes the raiders think that this is actually the entrance to the core of the base, or at least there are two entrances to the core of the base, and this is the direction they should raid in. Okay, I think you understand now my concept of making a symmetrical looking base actually asymmetrical. But then you might say, well, how likely is it that your base is surrounded from freeways by water? Yes, I agree, this is not the most likely scenario. Well, it's very common to build a base by the shore, so one direction will be always the safer one. But what about an area like this? Well, there's really, water is far away, there is really nothing special about this area. Let me tell you, 2 wipes ago we built a quad base in such an area, and it has been raided 6 times, or at least there were 6 attempts to raid the base, most of them online, and so some of them were successful, because even with the smart alarm we were at school, at work, and weren't able to log in. How many raids do you think with a base around in such area were coming from the high ground? How many on the same level, and how many from the lower area, the level below the base? Well, let me tell you. The first 5 raids came from the high ground. There were jumps into the walls, external walls. There were ladder into the external walls. Then we placed just external TCs behind the external walls from the high ground. Even then, the next raid came with a raid base being built on top of the hill, even though these other 3 directions didn't have externals outside of the external walls. And only since we were able to log in and defend the raid, we took over the raid base, and only when we had 4 externals on top of the hill, outside of the walls, took over even the raid base farther on, only then the raid came from the left on the same level. Also to the right there were woods, and woods are also something that makes raids less likely, because, well, I have countered some raids that have been done on bases in the woods. It's very easy to sneak onto the raiders. You can even take a prim kit with a DB and sneak through the woods and kill a fully kitted AK geared guy and profit from that. So building a raid base or going through woods to raid a base isn't the safest way for raiders. So it's not a very good direction, and raiders will generally steer clear away from raiding through the woods if they can. Well, the last thing that I would like to mention that will help you to determine the possible direction of a raid are monuments. Since you're not able to build a raid base near a monument, you won't be able to build it here. Only once you move far away from the monument, you will be able to raid. So if you build a base, for example, on this flat area around here, you can assume that, well, here there is high ground in that direction. It's probably the most likely direction for the raid. It still can be from the other side, but it's very it's not likely that the direction of the raid is going to come from the monument, but because once, like I mentioned, you cannot build a raid base. Second of all, there will be often players will come to the monuments, and so if the raiders are gonna attack from this direction, they will have to expect to be backstabbed to the players that naturally go to the monuments to farm. So this is it for this video. Let's end with Builder's Sanctuary, loading my base again below the ground, most of it at least below the ground. I hope you can use this concept of building an asymmetrical base that looks actually symmetrical and incorporate it into your next wipe. I've been enjoying Rust a lot in the last few months. I've been playing it a lot. I came back to this game after a few years of a break, and I hope I will be doing YouTube videos again. This is my first video probably in a few years. It's been probably 6-7 years since I've been doing my Witcher 3 videos, and anybody who watches this and still remembers my Witcher 3 or even my The Witcher Battle Arena videos, I really thank you for still keeping being subscribed and watching my videos after so many years. See you everybody, have a good time.